Hey guys, this is your USA, where the politicians make stuff up and the Constitution doesn't matter. Until now. Okay guys, I'm going to be reading from a website called billofrightsinstitute.org. I'm going to include that link in the description below. Basically, it's just a brief history of what happened leading up to the writing of the Constitution. So the Constitution was written in the summer of 1787 in Philadelphia. It was replacing the Articles of the Confederation, which were kind of the temporary laws that our makeshift Congress had set up in between the time of the Revolution and the time where we could actually form a new government. So they came together and they formed this here. Basically, you go down and you read that some states had difficulty ratifying it. A lot of states would not ratify it unless it had a Bill of Rights, which, if you look at the back of the Constitution, is the first 10 amendments of the Constitution. That's the original 10 amendments that were proposed as a Bill of Rights that would convince some of the states that didn't want to ratify or confirm the Constitution at first. It would convince them to do it later. Now, one thing to note, what the principles of the Constitution are. The principles of the Constitution are checks and balances in government. That's why we have three branches. Individual rights, liberty, limited government, natural rights theory, a Republican government. Now, not Republican Party, not Democrat Party, a Republican, a democratic republic government. Very different. You're going to hear politicians say something's a threat to our democracy. We have to deal with democracy. Well, there's a problem with that. We don't live in a democracy. A straight democracy is just majority rules. Unfortunately, when you have that type of situation, a lot of times people can be in power for way too long that shouldn't be. It doesn't give the smaller states the voice they need to compete against places that have a higher population. Having a democratic republic ensures that everyone in the country has a voice and popular sovereignty. Now we're going to move through the first article. I'm kind of just going to read it off out of my little booklet here. I'll stop and pause every so often. If you guys are following along with either an online version of the Constitution, you're going to notice I'm going to skip a few parts because here in this pocket Constitution, it's really nice. It gives me italics where an amendment had maybe changed something in the original documents of the Constitution. So there are 27, I believe, 25, 26, 27, yes, 27 amendments to the Constitution. So there are certain things that we've changed and taken out or put back throughout the years. So we'll start with Article 1. Article 1 in the preamble starts with the famous phrase, "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution," this one, "for the United States of America." Article 1, Section 1 starts off, "All legislative powers herein are granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and a House of Representatives," the legislative branch, which is Congress. Section 2, "The House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year," so they're elected every 2 years, "by the people of the several states, and the electors in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislature." Basically, that the electors in each state will meet the requirements that they are required to have by the Constitution. "No person shall be a representative who shall have not attained to the age of 25. You have to be 25 years old. You have to be 7 years a citizen of the United States. So in order to be a House representative or a senator, you don't necessarily have to be born here. "And who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state in which he shall be chosen. Representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states which may be included within this union according to their respective numbers. The actual enumeration shall be made within 3 years after the first meeting of the Congress of the United States, and with every term after that of 10 years, in such a manner as they shall by law direct. When vacancies, so when people leave, happen in the representation from any state, the executive authority thereof shall issue writs of election to fill vacancies. So that's why when you notice the president appoints somebody to a different thing and they get taken away from their congressional seat, that state will hold a special election to fill that congressional seat. The House of Representatives shall choose their speaker and other officers and shall have the sole power of impeachment. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, chosen, this one says chosen by the legislature, but that's in italics. It was later changed by the 17th Amendment, and it changed to being chosen by the people of that state. They serve for a 6-year term, and each senator shall have 1 vote in Congress. No person shall be a senator who shall not have attained the age of 30 years, so they have to be 30 years old, and they have to have lived in the United States for at least 9 years. And who shall not, when be elected, be an inhabitant of that state for which he shall be chosen. The Vice President of the United States shall be the President of the Senate, but shall have no vote. So basically he just presides over the whole thing, unless they be equally divided. The Senate shall choose their other officers and also a President pro tempore in the absence of the Vice President. Basically just a temporary President of the Senate, just in case he can't be there. Or when he shall exercise the office of President of the United States. So if a president gets assassinated or impeached and removed, the Vice President steps in, he can no longer fill that role in the Senate. The Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. When sitting for that purpose, they shall be on oath or affirmation, basically meaning nothing they say can be false. When the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice shall preside, and no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. So if someone wanted to impeach a president, you'd have to have 2/3 of the sitting senators. So you'd have to have 75 senators out of 100 to be able to do that. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. Basically, that person can't be elected for anything. But the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment according to law. So the Senate can't actually punish who they're impeaching. They can just get him out of office if they so choose by a vote. But after that, if a Chief Justice or the Attorney General or one of them wants to charge and then go after that person, they can. Section 4. The times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislator thereof. Each state will have their own elections. But the Congress may at any time by law make or alter such regulations except as to the places of choosing senators. The Congress shall assemble at least once in every year, and such meeting shall be on the first Monday in December unless they shall by law appoint a different day. This was changed by the 20th Amendment, and it changed to noon on the 3rd of January. So they moved it back a month. Section 5. Each House shall be the judge of the elections, returns and qualifications of its own members, and a majority of each shall constitute a quorum to do business. But a smaller number may adjourn from day to day, and may be authorized to compel the attendance of absent members, in such manner and under such penalties as each house may provide. Each house may determine the rules of its proceedings, punish its members for disorderly behavior, and with the concurrence of 2/3 expel a member. So if there's a senator that is being just downright, just blatantly crazy, they can do the same thing as they would with impeachment and hold a vote, and if 2/3 of them agree, they can expel the senator. Each house shall keep a journal of its proceedings and from time to time publish the same, excepting such parts as may, in their judgment, require secrecy. Congress doesn't have to tell us everything. A lot of times people think that, well, they're required to tell us, freedom of the press, anything they tend to cite to get that documentation doesn't always have to be so. The government does have the ability to hold certain things secretive, which isn't necessarily the best thing, but sometimes it can be for the people's protection, and you saw that in the original Constitution too. And the yeas and nays of the members of either house on any question shall, at the desire of 1/5 of those present, be entered on the journal. So basically 1/5 of the senators vote and it's entered into the journal. Neither house during the session of Congress shall, without the consent of the other, adjourn for more than 3 days, nor to any other place than that in which the two houses shall be sitting. Section 6. The senators and representatives shall receive a compensation for their services, so they are to be paid, to be ascertained by law and paid out of the Treasury of the United States. They shall in all cases, except treason, felony, and breach of peace, be privileged from arrest during their attendance at the session of their respective houses, and in going to and returning from the same. So to and from their house, to the Senate, things like that. And for any speech or debate in either house, they shall not be questioned in any other place. No senator or representative shall, during the time for which he was elected, be appointed to any civil office under the authority of the United States. They're not allowed to hold an appointed office at the same time of serving in Congress. So no senator or representative shall, during the time for which he was elected, be appointed to any civil office which shall have been created, or the emoluments whereof, payments, benefits that he would be getting from that office, he can't be receiving those while he's in Congress. They shall have been increased during such time, and no person holding any office under the United States shall be member of either house during his continuance in office. So it's redundant, they're just switching the language to make sure they mean both. Section 7. All bills for raising revenues shall originate in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments as on other bills. Every bill which shall have passed the House of Representatives and the Senate shall, before it become a law, be presented to the President. If he approve, he shall sign it, but if not, he shall return it with his objections to that House in which it shall have originated. So, if the President doesn't like it, sends it back to the House. They shall enter the objections at large on their journal and proceed to reconsider it. If after such reconsideration 2/3 of that House shall agree to pass the bill, it shall be sent together with the objections to the other House, by which it shall likewise be reconsidered, and if approved by 2/3 of that House, it shall become a law. So even if the President doesn't like it, and he sends it back, vetoes it, sends it back to the other House, if both the House and the Senate pass it with a 2/3 vote, then it's going to go into law whether the President likes it or not. But in all such cases, the votes of both houses shall be determined by yeas and nays, and the names of the persons voting for and against the bill shall be entered on the journal of each house respectively. If any bill shall not be returned by the President within 10 days after it shall have been presented to him, the same shall be a law, in like manner as if he had signed it, unless the Congress by their adjournment prevent its return, in which case it shall not be a law. Every order, resolution, or vote to which the concurrence of the Senate and House of Representatives may be necessary, except on a question of adjournment, shall be presented to the President of the United States, and before the same shall take effect, shall be approved by him or disapproved by him, shall be repassed by 2/3 of the Senate and House of Representatives according to the rules and limitations prescribed in the case of a bill. Basically just describes how a law becomes a law or how it doesn't become a law. Section 8. This is where it talks about what the Congress has power to lay and collect taxes. So for those of you who think taxation is theft, it's not. Taxation without representation is theft. That's part of why we went into the Revolutionary War in the first place, is Britain was trying to charge us for stuff, but wasn't telling us what they were charging us for. So if the government can't provide statements on what the taxes are being used for, that's different. According to Article 1, Section 8, they have the right to collect taxes, and as long as they show what it's being used for, it's not illegal. It may be upsetting, and they may be wasting some of the money, but it's legal. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. Here is what Congress can do with the money. Borrow money on the credit of the United States, regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with Indian tribes, to establish a uniform rule of naturalization and uniform rules on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States, to coin money, regulate the value thereof and of foreign coin, and fix the standards of weights and measures, currency, to establish post offices and post roads, to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. So the government has the right to tax to fund science, but they still have to give credit to the scientists. To constitute tribunals inferior to the superior court, to define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of nations, to declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, and make rules concerning captures on land and water, to raise and support armies, but no appropriation of money to that use shall be for a larger term than 2 years, to provide and maintain a navy, to make rules for the government and regulation of the land and naval forces, to provide for calling forth the militia to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections and rebel invasions, to provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, and for governing such part of them as may be employed in the service of the United States, reserving to the state respectively the appointment of the officers and the authority of training the militias according to the disciplines prescribed by Congress, to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district not exceeding 10 miles square as may by cession of particular states and the acceptance of Congress become the seat of the government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature of the state in which the same shall be for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings. The money that the government needs for the military, they can tax for. That's what all of that means. To make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers and all the powers vested by the Constitution in the government of the United States or in any department thereof. Section 9. The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion in the public safety may require it. No bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed. No capitation or other direct tax shall be laid unless in proportion to the census or enumeration herein before directed to be taken. It's a federal income tax. It's a graduated tax. It's based on living people. No tax or duty shall be laid on articles exported from any state. No preference shall be given by any regulation of commerce or revenue to the ports of one state over those of another, nor shall vessels bound to or from one state be obliged to enter, clear, or pay duties in another. No money shall be drawn from the treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law. No title of nobility shall be granted by the United States. No kings, no dukes, and no person holding any office of profit or trust under them shall, without the consent of Congress, accept of any present emolument, office, or title of any kind. So they can't accept it from any kings, princes, or foreign states. Section 10. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder. The states aren't allowed to do currency. That's a federal thing. No state shall, without the consent of the Congress, lay any imposts or duties, imports or exports. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any duty of tonnage, keep troops. No state is allowed to take away from the powers laid in Section 9. Section 9 is what the federal government is there for. I know some of this can be a little bland. That's the end of Article 1, by the way. On the next episode, we'll start going into Article 2. There are 7 articles here, and, we're going to go through that in the coming weeks. It may seem a little bland. This first part, the first few episodes of this channel are going to be education so that we can know this, so that we can start looking at what's going on. It's not about politics, but we need to look at what our legislators are doing that may be against this so that we know who to vote for. So I thank you for sticking with me through that. Again, billofrightsinstitutes.org. I will leave this link in the description below. On Amazon, they're about $6 a piece. So get one. Come back next time. Continue reading it with me. We'll go on to Article 2. Again, this is your USA. Let's learn our rights so that we can make sure it stays ours. You guys have a good week. I look forward to seeing you next time.